Welcome, everybody, as you're starting to sign in. Welcome to our lunchtime chat here in Portland with exhibiting artist Erik Östensson. We're really excited to have you all here today on our Wednesday afternoon and evening for Erik. Erik is joining us from Sweden, northern Sweden. So he was just telling me that you can see right behind him that it's very bright outside, but it's like, what, is it 9 o'clock your time? Around that, yeah. So yeah, if anyone's ever been up to like Alaska or north, you know that it stays light almost all night in northern Sweden. So it's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna also just mute everybody who is joining us. Just keep yourselves muted, please, so that way we don't have any disturbances. And just so as we're getting started, if you have any questions throughout Erik's chat, feel free to pop those questions into our chat and I will read them off. And then we'll also have a little discussion at the end if you have any specific questions that come up at the end as well. All right. Well, my name is C. Meyer. I am the exhibitions director here at Blue Sky. For those who haven't been in yet this month, we just opened our July exhibitions, including Erik Östensson's exhibition Sharnen, as well as Rebecca Marimutu. Rebecca gave an in-person gallery talk on Saturday that will be available on our YouTube soon. So if you weren't able to make it in person, you can check that out online. In a couple of days, it'll be up there. All right, so real quick, I'll just introduce Erik and we'll start off with our land acknowledgement. We at Blue Sky humbly acknowledge that our programming is being held on the traditional lands of the Multnomah, Kaflamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. In this online format, you may be participating from other areas, and we invite you to consider your own land acknowledgement that reflects your location. We also acknowledge that the very technology we rely on for these online programs is inequitably distributed and not equally accessible, creating new virtual displacements and exclusions. We call attention to the need for action now and in the future to address these disparities. And so joining us today again is Erik Östensson. Photographer Erik Östensson is known for his surrealistic, deceptively simple and unique pictorial compositions. His poetically performative images reveal an emotional interplay in the depiction of the interaction between people, objects, and landscapes. Sorry, folks can just mute themselves. Everything appears to be interconnected in harmonious coexistence, whereby new relationships in materials and form develop. Östensson encourages the viewer to discard learned habits of being and to look with the eyes of a child who has only just begun to discover the world. Past notions are superseded and the meaning of known objects expanded. Östensson studied at the International Center of Photography in New York and the University of Umeå in Sweden. His works are regularly exhibited in galleries, museums, and at festivals in and beyond Scandinavia. He published 2 books, I Will Take Care of You by Journal and Untitled Care Verlag. He lives and works in Oslo. But you're joining us today from up north in Sweden, which is actually where a lot of your photographs in the project that we have here at Blue Sky Sharnen were taken. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm visiting my parents, and my sister and brother are also here. So it's like a family gathering. Yeah.
Great. Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna stop my. Well, actually. I wanted to show a couple of install shots that I did have to take. So if folks haven't been to the gallery or able to see it, this is Erik's work in our gallery on display. And again, it is open now until August 12th. All right, I'm going to stop my share and Erik, you can take it on from here.
Okay. So I can start. Yeah, okay. I'm really glad to be able to visit the exhibition like online like this. I couldn't come in person. It was a too long trip for me. I have my family situation is that I have twins that are just 1.5 years old. So it's was not possible to travel to Portland. It's almost the other side of the globe. But we can meet here, so that's really nice. And I'm really happy to show my work at Blue Sky. And yeah, it's been a nice working with the gallery. My native mother tongue is Swedish, and I'm trying to learn Norwegian. And English is I understand English well, but when I speak, it's not so good. So I hope you have understanding with that. I'm 45 years old, and I'm from the north of Sweden, as she said. And she also introduced me my education and what I have been doing. So you know all that. In this talk, I was thinking about taking you on a trip on my way to photography and where I am now. So when I exhibit my pictures, I often get the question from people, what does this work, what is your work about? Can you tell me something like? And for me, I always find it hard to explain. So then I was thinking like, I should make this artist talk about why I make pictures. So I think it's easier to understand. So I'm going to talk about when I started making pictures and all the way to where I am now. And the reason why I make pictures has changed during this time many times, and that has made an impact on the pictures as well. And there's people have many reasons why they take pictures, and there's no thing that's better or worse, but I'm just going to tell me my journey. So I'm going to share some pictures with you. See if I can handle this. Share screen. So when I started making pictures, I was almost like a hunter. I was very interested in nature and animals, and I was trying to capture pictures in the nature, like seizing small bits of the nature to make a beautiful picture. And what was beautiful to me, I didn't reflect so much upon. It was like what I had learned was beautiful. And after a while, I started to try to make stories, tell a story, and I did that by like in a documentary style, putting myself together with people that I wanted to tell a story about, and following them and making pictures. This is my my grandmother and grandfather. He's laying down listening to her reading the Bible. They did that every day after lunch. So then there was this, like, why am I making photographs? I want to tell a story. And then it evolved into making a story about my own life. And that's about when I started studying photography, I think. I started studying photography in Sweden. And very often I made these stories about trips I made. So this first series is about the trip I made. I hitchhiked from Umeå down to Greece and made pictures during the way, capturing moments, what I saw. Like a story about the trip. And this is also a story about the trip that I made in the United States. Me and my friends bought a car and drove across from the east to the west and back. So this is also just in one way personal story about traveling. And then after a while, when it evolved into making more stories about my everyday, like inspired by Nan Goldin and others who speak about their everyday lives in their picture. So it's I started making this series about, it could be like 1 year, that year, and then I put it together in a book. So this is a story about my first year when I moved from the north of Sweden to Stockholm and lived with friends in a collective. And I have always been interested in artist book and making my own books. So but like before I published book, I made artist books. So this series is I made into an artist book. And yeah, as she said, I studied 1 year at ICP, International Center of Photography, I think she told you, in New York. And it was this break in the winter that I went back to Sweden for like 2 weeks or something. And then I made a series about that time, me visiting friends and family. And that I also made an artist book about. Then when I came home from, like, when I studied ICP, I met a lot of other students that I studied together with that was working in a more conceptual way. And I was very stuck into this, telling about my life and my everyday. And but I was interested in this conceptual way of communicating. So when I came back, I tried to think about, like, what do I want to speak about? Do I have an idea? Is there something I want to communicate, except telling about my life and showing them about my life? And then I did this work, and it's still in a way documentary because I'm just capturing moments, but I started using the camera I have been using since, like a large format camera. And when you use a large format camera, you can't really take snapshots anymore. So you have to, like, put it on a tripod, and yeah, everyone who has been using one of those knows that it's you have to take a lot of time. So the pictures became more planned in a way, more driven by ideas. And it was the story I wanted to tell was this connection between fathers, mothers, and their children, like how we were connected in a way. And this work was is the work that was published by the Swedish publisher Journal, and it's called "I Will Take Care of You" in English. This is how the book looks. I can show you some. So it's I visited my friends' homes and made picture of how they looked like when they were young, and their parents' place, and then also like where my friends were now, what lives they were living when they lived by their own. And this book has this kind of fold out. It's a pretty small book. Yeah, so after that, I tried to start, like, I changed my way of working, not doing documentary work anymore, and like more working with an idea that had like an idea that was the start of the work. For example, this work was I was really spiritual searching when I was in this age, and I felt like I didn't have any connection with religion because my parents wasn't religious, but my grandparents were. But it felt like I had lost connection to the religious practice. So I asked my friends to pose in a way like, how are you praying? And made this series with friends praying. And this work was exhibited in churches in my hometown. And this work is, I don't know, this like the, I'm laughing because it feels like it's a different kind of work that I never done anything like this, but I had this thing about Cartier-Bresson's. He's talking about the decisive moment. And I was thinking, like, there wasn't any decisive moments. Every moment is decisive in a way. So I was doing this, like finding a decisive place instead. And then I put up these things in the forest. And if you found the decisive place, they became this line in the forest. So all of this is like with the idea that starts the progress of the work. And this is a series I made when I was trying to make pictures that showed people's search for meaning, different ways. And that tall guy with long hair is actually me. And these pictures are arranged. So I'm like thinking out, like, what kind of pictures do I want? Where do I found the model? What is the place I want to do it? So I'm like creating pictures for the camera in a way. Like, instead of capturing pictures on the move in the world, I'm creating pictures for the camera. And this picture is a part of this work that I'm showing at Blue Sky. For me, it has changed again in a way, because now I'm not driven by an idea. It's not conceptual in that way. It's more like I found myself very interested in a certain type of motifs, but I couldn't really understand what made them interesting. So I was like just doing these pictures, and in one way, like trying to find out why am I attracted to these motifs. So it's more like a search for something, like I have a quest. Like, for me, the picture is also something I don't understand, but it interests me. So it's like I don't want to tell anything with the picture, but the picture tells me something. So it's like when I made these pictures in retro perspective, and what you say, I can see that there are some motifs that are coming back in different ways. Yeah, and that's the if you visit Blue Sky, you can see this work, and also the work was published on Kerer Verlag. So the book is you can look at the book. And this was also I also made an artist book before it got published. So for me, the reason why I make pictures, it's been changing a lot, and right now it's more like I'm searching for something. It's more like I'm putting it's like questions. Yeah. So that's like the way I have been going from seizing pictures to seizing pictures from the outside to creating pictures from the inside. And that's like what I'm doing now too, because all of these pictures also like I get them when I can read a text or look at the movie or travel in nature, and then I get a picture I want to make, and then I try to make it a picture that doesn't exist, create it. Yeah, that was the story.
Thanks, Erik. If you want to leave the pictures up, or we can just bring it up for the group. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Especially, I always love when artists go back through their kind of back in time and talk about where they started, how they got into photography. And it's so cool to be able to see like just the various approaches you've taken and like where you are now. And you can kind of see the links between, old ways that you were trying to approach your image making to now. And I can see some of those connections with like this current project being in a very like special place for you in Sweden. And so it's still kind of personal, coming back to kind of what you were doing when you were first photographing. You're still making in a way like a very personal work, because the location is like for you super personal, because that's where you grew up, and you're there now with your family. And I love that you talked about the decisive place, because I can see that with this project, because you are in a specific place surrounding this particular lake near your family's home. And I was interested in, and I'll just kind of start the discussion off, and then folks feel free to put questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand using the reaction button, I can open up the mute so people can ask Erik directly. But I was curious about in this project and how you're approaching making the images. The thing that strikes me so much with this work is like the strength in form and shape and color, and where you're like playfully like playing with that. And I'm interested if you can talk a little more about the visual sort of tactics that you're using to like get sort of these, in a way, there's sort of these uncanny pictures with like the woman putting her hand in this hole, and the way that you're using reflection. Like I'm seeing some of those things, and I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, like most of the pictures are like everyday objects, like things that we have close, like a glass of water on the table. I think in one way, it's because I don't have so much resources. Like if I can't build big things, but it's also like to use the like everyday objects and find ways of looking at them. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, like look carefully and closely to things, and like show that also like everyday objects could be so, like in my view perspective, like interesting in a like simple twist. Yeah. And I don't know, like I believe in like kind of beauty. I think beauty is like I had like when I was doing pictures, I was like, beauty is something we have learned, and it's like culture, and it's not for real. But I think like you want people to look at your pictures, you want people to appreciate your pictures, and for me, beauty is also important. And then like I don't know. I think even though they are everyday objects, people can see the beauty in them. And the way I put the lighting, and I use like no flashes and things like that. So it's like romantic in a way. Yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Michael Praise in the chat has a follow-up question. How do you select those objects?
Yeah, like as I said earlier, it's like every picture starts with like an inner picture, and I could have inspiration for the inner picture from different things. It could be I see a movie, I read a poem, I see something outside, and then I start with like writing down in text, describing the picture in text. I think maybe that's why the pictures are so simple, because all pictures was once just text describing it, how it should look. And then I have like hundreds of descriptions of pictures. So, and then there are some that I'm more interested in, and then I'm like, I have to find a occasion to try to make this picture. And then I try to find a place, yeah, the opportunity to make it. And if I need a model or something. And then also because I use this large format camera, it's you don't see the result. So I make one exposure, maybe two, and then I collect. So I have like maybe 10. After a summer at my parents' place, I have made 10 different motifs, and then I developed them. And very often it's not what I thought it would be. So a lot of these pictures I have tried like 2 or 3 times to do in different ways till I'm satisfied. So it's a really slow like process with the pictures. And it's like the opposite to using a digital camera, when you can like shoot a lot of pictures and then choose. So it's a lot of time in every picture. Yeah.
Thanks, Eric, for answering Michael's question. He had one follow-up from that question. Do you see the object of beauty in your mind? I mean, you talked about the way that you're writing about it. Is
Okay.
that sort of coming from your own imagination? And then when you're writing that text, it's sort of visual that you're seeing in your own mind, and then you go out and do that?
It's just like to remember how it looked in a way. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So there's a little bit of like linking to memory too about your work in a lot of ways.
And when you use negatives when you make pictures, it's also like you have to find the right nuance and tones of the colors and things like that. So that's also kind of process when I made a picture and I think it's nice. It's still like a lot of work in Photoshop, but not in a way that I that I like take away things and put things on. It's more like finding the tones and the contrast, and so it's a lot of work to find the right expression in a way. Yeah.
That's great. There's a hand up in Ralph Wells. You've got your hand up. If you should be able to unmute yourself, if you want to ask.
I am unmuted.
You are.
There we go. Thanks. My name is Ralph Wells. I'm on the exhibition committee at the Blue Sky. So I like just talking about the photography. A couple of things.
Right.
One is, I like the way that you talked about your current work, that it's a picture that doesn't exist. And I just found that such an interesting way of describing sort of a set piece or a constructed piece, which is usually the way that it's described before we look at it. But to think of it as something that it doesn't, a picture that doesn't exist and you have to create it, is
Right.
just works in my head very nicely, and it seems to be a very offbeat way of getting to a common situation. Why do people take pictures like that? But that one was just very eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
And the other one was that it seems as if that the way that you talked about the process of this current work, that you were getting to a point of almost that there's nothing more to say. There's no verbal response. There's no description left. It's just the thing itself. There's nothing about, you can't say anything else about it. It seems like that's a point that you want to get to, where it's almost a visual experience singularly, without anything else. That kind of purity of just visual information, and that's it. It's just an eye thing. It's not a voice or an ear thing. So anyway, this has been a fun conversation, and I just like your work a great deal. So thanks.
Maybe that's why I have a hard time explaining my pictures.
Yeah, I think, I mean, in a sense, that's what you've been saying, I think, is that this is beyond explanation. This is a visual, that's what you're trying to do, to be simply visual. So I don't know.
It's a nice way of looking at it.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, thanks.
Yu Young has a question in the chat. Among the pictures in your exhibition, which one was the most fun for you to make?
Like a lot of pictures look simple, but they are not so simple. You have to like build things to be able to, you try it and it's like, no, it doesn't work. And then you have to, and all this building and trying out is a lot of like working with my family or working with the people around me. So it's always like, when I'm making this picture, it's like, what I say, it's like this, it's like an like, I don't find the word, but it's like, I'm together with someone and we're trying to create it, and we are like building up something, going somewhere, like it's a lot of stuff around, even if it looks simple. So it's like this, almost all of the pictures are a situation when I'm cooperating with someone and trying to make something in one way together, it feels like. Yeah. So, but I don't really know if there's some special. I like making pictures with my father, for example. Like this, there's a human body coming up from the water. That's one of them. it was actually cold in the water, so he got like really cold when we did that. It's his back coming up. He has a very hairy back. Yeah, no, but I have a lot of memories in this situation when we are creating it. Yeah, so it's more than just a snapshot. It's like really making the picture in a way.
Yeah, there's a lot of intentionality behind every single image you make, and clearly with the need for having to slow down with not just like the equipment you're using, but the way you're trying to get the image to be seen in a certain way, I think too. And I look at like I was thinking about the image, or the image of the body that's sort of, and it appears when you look at it that this body is just floating on top of water, and you can kind of see where the head is just like above. But what I love about what you've included for this exhibition is the you also have a video of that same image. So there's a still image that you've made of this, and you've made a video. And the video, the thing that's fun about it is if you watch it, it's not very long. It's maybe less than 5 minutes. But if you as a viewer stay and watch it and it's just still this whole time, you can see the water lapping. But then at the very end, that you like let the viewer see the sort of behind the scenes. And I'm not going to talk about it because I want people to come here and see it. But at first I was kind of like, oh, you're giving it away. But I also am like, it's so cool to be able to see like how you were able to get that body in the form that it is, how it's upside down and the head is just floating right above the water. And it's sort of a treat for the viewer that if you stay and you watch the whole thing, you're gonna get a little treat at the end. And so that's cool. So for folks who can come, who haven't seen the show yet in person, you can definitely come and watch this video and watch the whole thing. Because I don't know, I think it's fun to get that sort of little nugget of like your process in that visual.
Yeah, it's like you get this little bit of an illusion. Like you see it, like you understand that, like, okay, it was in one way really simple, but it looked like it was totally like digitally in a way, but it was like
I think people probably often will look at that, in particular that work, and think that, oh, it was probably just photoshopped. And I was like, no, it's definitely not. But then it was like, well, then how the heck how are you able to get these bodies in these shapes? And I love that there's sort of repetition throughout this project of almost similar shapes. You have kind of the image with is it like there's some like little fish that you've kind of shaped into this cube, but then that shape sort of repeats in the bodies that you're also showing. So it's just interesting to see how you connect the pictures together as well, because they're definitely talking to each other, I feel like, as I'm looking at them all together. Yeah. And I also wanted to mention real quick, and I'll go back to the chat questions, that we do have copies of Erik's book of this project, and they are for sale. So you can come and see the book here of the same project for more images. We obviously the exhibition doesn't have every single image from your project, but the book includes a lot more. So it's definitely a really beautiful book to have, and we do have quite a few copies. So yeah, please come by and check out the book too. But I'm going to pop back to the chat. And of course, Erik, if you have any follow-up from my comment, but Michael Praise has a couple more questions. Michael, do you have any specific ones you want me to ask first, or?
No, I just sort of stream of consciousness on my part. Really nice work, Erik. And thank you, Blue Sky, for having this. This is great.
Thanks. Glad to hear.
Thanks, Michael. Do we have any other questions from the audience for Erik?
Well, if you're going to give me a choice and then no one else asking,
Go
the
ahead.
last question, the images, if I look at them, I don't recognize, they're maybe they're because they're from Sweden. They're very specific. They're not in my visual repertoire, but I do recognize each one. I don't think they'll become any more or less foreign to me. I will remember them. But do you go through a process where you, in your mind, have this image, or do you develop the image through a process, or the particular object through a process? You alluded to it a little bit, but does it, like the pants?
Ask it again. So I lost you a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. So thinking about the pants, for instance, there's someone's pants. I know what pants are. An unusual way to display them with the feet below them. Do you visualize that at the start? Or does this become more and more yours as you develop it and then finally capture a picture?
Like if I really have the exact picture in my mind.
Yeah. Do you start with an exact picture in your mind?
Yeah, I see. Like the pictures I have in my mind is not in that way clear.
Okay.
Like I know how it should look, but it's not like I see a picture.
Okay.
You know how, yeah. So it's
I
more
mean,
like
you interact with someone, so that helps.
yeah. When I'm trying to make it, it's like I know where I want to go. Yeah, hard to explain, but it's not like I know the pants has to be that color, and you know, it's more like I have an idea. I have this in one way a picture in my head, but also like a feeling of how it should be.
Okay.
And I'm like searching my way to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
And also it's like the times I have a clearer picture, sometimes it happens I have a clearer picture in my mind that is kind of really clear. It's obvious that it's really hard to create it in reality.
Yeah.
Because it's so it's it's a search for something.
Okay. Thank you.
Doing it. Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. Allison Sifron in the chat asks you, do any of your image ideas come from your dreams?
Yeah, it can come from dreams, absolutely. I think dreams is it's like you can get really strong images in dreams. And also not really clear. They're not like clear like an image you see physically, but it's you can have like this, yeah. Yeah, they can come from dreams, absolutely.
That was a great question, Allison. Thanks for asking it. And just a comment from Joyce Lopez, she says the images are so clean and design oriented. Love them.
Nice.
Thanks for the comment, Joyce. Any other questions from the audience? We've got a little more time left, but if not, we can let everyone go and to enjoy the rest of their day or evening or wherever everyone is joining us from today. Are you working on any other projects right now, Erik? Or I know you're currently in Sweden at your family's home. Are you continuing to work on this project while you're there? Is it kind of a closed project for you?
Yeah, like I told you, I try to finish, like put the project together with the book. So that's like a way to get closure. So yeah, so the book is a closure for that project, and I'm really happy with the book.
Yeah, the book's really beautiful. It's nice to have the copies here. Fantastic. I know you have 2 little ones, so does that make it challenging to like to start working on newer work or continue with your practice?
Yeah, it's I think like in different places, time in life, you have like different focus. And right now it feels like it's dad life. And I also think like it would be hard to not feel like I was like not doing enough, because I think I'm doing a lot. But yeah, as I'm not hurrying, like everything has to take time. Now this is the biggest thing. But I have things that I in one way working on. Yeah. But it's not as it was before.
Totally. A little less
Yeah.
time. Well, with that in mind, we really appreciate your time today, sharing with us. It was great to see your beginnings and to see where you're at now. And yeah, we're just thrilled to have your work here. It's a beautiful show. Again, for folks who are in the area and can come and check out the exhibition, it is here until August 12th. We are here Wednesday through Sunday. We are open Sundays now. So folks who can make the trip over, if you're in the local area or in nearby, definitely come by and see Erik's work. It's really a treat to see these in person. The colors, the beautiful. Come check out the video, come get a copy of the book. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on what you're up to, Erik. And thanks again so much. It's been a real pleasure having you.
Thank you real much for having me. It was a pleasure for me too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you soon. This talk was recorded, so if you want to share it or rewatch it, catch the beginning if you missed it, we'll have that up on our YouTube channel in a couple days. So to keep your eyes peeled for that. And also, yeah, just follow us on our Instagram, on our website. Hope to see you soon. We love our audience and members, and please come back. And thanks to Erik again. Have a wonderful evening to you and a wonderful day to everybody else who's in West Coast time like we are. Yeah, we'll see y'all next time. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.